Welcome back to Saturday Agenda. We also saw this week more so-called green shoots on the economy and more healthy forecasts from none other than Chris Richardson at Access Economics. He doesn't think unemployment's going to reach the 8.5% peak forecast in the budget back in May. But the government, it seems, isn't quite so quick to jump on the bandwagon of recovery. Take a look at Chris Richardson, followed by the Treasurer and the Prime Minister, talking about where the economy is at and why perhaps things are looking a bit more positive.
Australian families have been spending too much for too long anyway, but a dose of retail therapy, Mum's helped get us through the most dangerous phase.
We will live with the consequences of this global recession for some time to come.
There are some positive signs in the global economy, but we're not out of the woods yet, and unemployment will continue to rise.
Mark Kenny, we are not out of the woods. This is the favoured refrain of the Prime Minister. Why do you think he is reluctant to suggest we've turned the corner? I know Barack Obama during the week said the US economy had stepped back from the brink. Kevin Rudd doesn't want to signal we're on the path to better times?
Look, I think you have to be very careful when you're a Prime Minister in these sort of times. Lindsay Tanner made the point on Agenda during the week that these are sort of unprecedented circumstances we're dealing with. Therefore, it's pretty hard to make, sort of concrete and informed predictions about it. But it's also the case that ever since George Bush stood on that destroyer with mission accomplished written behind it, everyone knows what can go wrong if you call it a bit early. I mean, you look like a complete fool. And the other problem is that there is speculation that there could be some sort of a double dip effect, that there may be a recovery, but it depends how robust it is. There are so many elements to the economy. And
you still have billions of dollars going out the door in the stimulus spending carry-on, and you are going to have more people losing their jobs. So I suppose the Prime Minister doesn't want to be out there saying everything's fine.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the big one, isn't it? That if unemployment continues to just creep up and then maybe even creep up at a greater rate next year, which is an election year, they don't want to have their words on record. So they do have these words that they use. I think it's also just a political imperative sometimes to continue to talk in a sober and sombre way about the economy, because look at their rhetoric from 6 months ago. It was diabolical. They were catastrophic. They were suggesting that catastrophic things were around the corner, and that the economy was going to go into one hell of a dive that we hadn't seen since the Great Depression. So
I was buying dripping to put on my bread.
That's exactly right. Got all the cans in the pantry.
David Penberthy, I guess the prospect is now that things could be looking better, though, either at the end of this year, early next year, when the government does finally decide to pull the trigger on an early election. And if it can roll out some pretty rosy figures, that's only going to mean more trouble for the Liberals.
Absolutely, Dave. I think that, this time 4 months ago, when the surplus vanished and when we started looking at a particularly scary deficit, there were a lot of hard questions being asked of Labor about its economic management. People were critical of the sort of game show style cash splurges that we were seeing. Dead people were getting cheques, expats were getting cheques in London and the States, and the stimulus money was really copping a lot of flack. But if us being compared to other nations that have adopted a similar strategy, if the numbers continue trending the way they are, where Australia looks to be very much the best of a bad lot, then that's really going to undermine what was looking a few months ago like a potentially lucrative and rich vein of criticism for the opposition.
Yeah, it does look like it. We're out of time. David Penberthy, Mark Kenny, Kerry-Ann Walsh, thanks all for joining us.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of Saturday Agenda. I'm David Speers. Thanks for your company.